What makes a criminal truly dangerous? Is it the violence they leave in their wake, or the intelligence and strategy they use to evade capture? In the case of Willie Sutton and Pretty Boy Floyd, these two notorious criminals, their methods couldn't be more different, but the threat they posed was equally deadly. Stick around to find out which one truly earned the title of America's most dangerous criminal. Before we move on to the next part, please give me a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening. Willie Sutton and Pretty Boy Floyd are two of the most notorious criminals in American history, particularly known for their bank robberies during the early to mid-20th century. Both men became infamous for their daring crimes, yet they approached their robberies in vastly different ways, reflecting not only their personalities, but also the societal climate of the time. Willie Sutton, born in 1901, was a criminal mastermind known for his exceptional ability to rob banks. Over the course of his career, Sutton was involved in over 100 bank robberies across several states. What set him apart was not only his strategic planning and meticulous execution, but also his knack for evading capture. Sutton was infamous for being a calm and calculating criminal. He rarely used violence, instead relying on his intelligence and charm to execute his heists. His preferred method was to simply walk into a bank, rob it, and walk out without creating a scene. One of his most famous quotes was, "I rob banks because that's where the money is." This remark exemplified his pragmatic approach to crime, focusing solely on the financial gain rather than any larger ideological motivation. Pretty Boy Floyd, born in 1904, was a stark contrast to Sutton in terms of both personality and approach to crime. Known for his violent tendencies, Floyd was involved in not only bank robberies, but also violent confrontations with law enforcement. During the Great Depression, he became a symbol of resistance for many impoverished people who viewed him as a figure fighting against the banks that were perceived as responsible for the economic turmoil. Unlike Sutton, Floyd's robberies were often loud and chaotic. He wasn't shy about using violence to get what he wanted, and his robberies frequently ended in shootouts with the police. Floyd was also known for his charming appearance, which earned him the nickname Pretty Boy. His violent nature, however, overshadowed his looks, and he became a feared figure in American crime history. Both Sutton and Floyd were experts in their own right, but they were experts in very different ways. Sutton was methodical and secretive, while Floyd was brazen and aggressive. Experts on crime, particularly those who studied the psychology and methodology of criminals, have often compared the two men, noting how their contrasting styles of robbery tell us much about the socio-political conditions of their time. For Sutton, the goal was always the money, quickly and with minimal fuss. Floyd, however, sought more than just financial gain. His robberies were often a statement against the societal structures that were oppressing the American people during the Great Depression. In the next section, we will delve deeper into the specific methods each criminal used to commit their robberies, and explore how their psychological makeup and motivations shaped their respective criminal careers. Willie Sutton and Pretty Boy Floyd, while both infamous criminals known for their bank heists, employed vastly different methods and displayed distinct psychological traits and motives. Understanding these differences provides a clearer picture of how each man operated within the criminal world. Sutton's approach to bank robbery was meticulous and low profile. His method was driven by careful planning and a desire for minimal confrontation. Unlike many criminals of his time, Sutton did not rely on violence to achieve his goals. Instead, he focused on studying his targets, learning the bank's layout, the best times to strike, and the security measures in place. Once inside the bank, Sutton would often approach the tellers, brandish a firearm and demand the money, but he avoided creating panic. His goal was to avoid drawing attention and leave as quickly as he arrived. This approach made him a master of stealth and one of the most elusive criminals of his era. He was well known for his ability to escape from jails and evade the police, using his wit and charm to manipulate situations to his advantage. In contrast, Pretty Boy Floyd's approach was marked by a boldness and violence that stood in stark contrast to Sutton's calculated behavior. Floyd did not hesitate to use force in his robberies. When he and his gang would rob banks, they often engaged in shootouts with law enforcement or even bystanders. Floyd's tendency to use violence was not limited to robbery. He had a quick temper and was known to escalate situations rapidly. Unlike Sutton, Floyd was not trying to avoid attention. He was creating it. His robberies were chaotic, loud, and sometimes even deadly, leaving a trail of destruction and fear wherever he went. Floyd's motives were more complicated than simply financial gain. His actions were often seen as a rebellion against the establishment, a response to the inequality and hardship faced by the average American during the Great Depression. Psychologically, Sutton and Floyd differed significantly. Sutton was a calm, calculating figure who did not let emotions interfere with his criminal activities. His lack of violence and strategic approach to robbing banks indicates a highly controlled individual, someone who operated under a cold logic. Sutton was a man who carefully planned every detail and considered the consequences of his actions before moving forward. This made him both a dangerous and elusive figure, as he did not act out of anger or impulse, but rather with purpose. On the other hand, Floyd's psychology was driven by passion and impulsivity. While Sutton sought to avoid confrontation, Floyd thrived in it. He was willing to face off against law enforcement, often leaving behind a bloody trail in his wake. Floyd's inability to control his emotions led to reckless decisions, and his quick temper made him dangerous not just to the banks he robbed, but to anyone in his vicinity. Floyd's motivations were rooted in his own frustration with society, and he viewed his robberies as a way to defy the system that he felt had oppressed him and others like him. Both men, however, shared a common motive: financial gain, but their approaches and how they sought to achieve this goal were starkly different. Sutton, driven by logic and meticulous planning, would strike with precision and leave with minimal fanfare. Floyd, driven by anger and a desire to make a statement, would rob with reckless abandon and often leave a trail of violence behind him. Their psychological profiles, methods, and motives highlight the contrast between the two men, shedding light on their very different approaches to the same crime. In the next section, we will explore the dangers each man posed to society, looking at their crimes in detail and examining expert opinions on their threat level. When examining the level of danger posed by Willie Sutton and Pretty Boy Floyd, it is essential to consider not just their methods of committing crimes, but also their overall impact on society and the law enforcement agencies that pursued them. While both were notorious figures in American criminal history, their individual actions and personalities contributed to their respective threat levels in different ways. Willie Sutton, despite his calculated approach to crime, was considered one of the most dangerous criminals of his time. His ability to meticulously plan bank robberies and evade capture over an extended period made him a significant threat. Sutton's cold, logical demeanor allowed him to avoid the chaos and violence often associated with other criminals. However, his strategic brilliance in executing high-profile heists placed him in a category of his own. His ability to escape from prison on multiple occasions further demonstrated his resourcefulness and cunning. Sutton did not leave a trail of destruction like other criminals, but his impact was far-reaching. with stolen funds fueling his criminal activities for years. According to crime experts, Sutton's ability to blend in with society and avoid detection for so long made him a particularly dangerous individual. He was not easily caught, and his consistent success in escaping law enforcement made him a persistent threat. In comparison, Pretty Boy Floyd's threat level was much more immediate and violent. His robberies were often accompanied by gunfire, and he was willing to use force without hesitation. Floyd's use of violence made him a much more dangerous criminal in terms of physical harm. He did not rely on subtlety or careful planning. Instead, he used brute force and intimidation to get what he wanted. Floyd's brazen attacks on banks and law enforcement made him a public enemy, and his presence sparked fear and chaos wherever he went. While Sutton might have been a master of stealth, Floyd was a master of chaos. Experts who studied his behavior noted that his quick temper and violent tendencies made him an unpredictable and highly volatile criminal. Floyd's impact on society was deeply felt, especially among the public, who viewed him as a symbol of resistance against the economic hardships of the time. His actions often resulted in significant harm, not just to the banks he targeted, but also to innocent bystanders caught in the crossfire. In terms of overall danger, both men were highly dangerous, but for different reasons. Sutton's danger came from his ability to blend in and evade capture, making him a persistent and elusive threat. Floyd, on the other hand, was dangerous because of his violent tendencies and the physical harm he caused. While Sutton's threat was more insidious and long-term, Floyd's was immediate and intense. Crime experts agree that Sutton's brilliance as a strategist and his ability to avoid detection made him a more insidious threat over time, while Floyd's unpredictability and willingness to use violence made him an immediate danger. In conclusion, both Willie Sutton and Pretty Boy Floyd were formidable criminals who left their mark on American crime history. Their contrasting methods and personalities make them interesting subjects for comparison, but what stands out is how their actions influence society and the law enforcement agencies that pursued them. Sutton's intellect and stealth made him a dangerous, calculating criminal, while Floyd's violence and aggression made him a fearsome, chaotic figure. Ultimately, their legacies highlight the different ways in which crime can manifest, and their stories serve as a reminder of the complex nature of criminal behavior. In the end, both Willie Sutton and Pretty Boy Floyd carved their names into the annals of crime history for very different reasons. One, a master of stealth and strategy; the other, a symbol of violence and rebellion. But here's the real question. Which one do you think was more dangerous? Was it Sutton's brilliance at evading capture, or Floyd's willingness to use force without hesitation? Let us know your thoughts. If you found this comparison fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives into the most notorious figures in history. What's your opinion? Do you think cunning is more dangerous than brute force? Comment below, and let's discuss.